Hello, everybody. I'm Jillian Sakovits. A very warm welcome to Full-Time Review. It is presented by Amazon Business. Finally, there is a clear leader in the NWSL, and that is the Kansas City Current, who after 5 games in remain perfect. 5 wins from 5 games with a 2-0 victory over the Houston Dash. That was the Kansas City Current's 4th straight clean sheet, 401 minutes without conceding a goal this season, and a new record for consecutive NWSL regular season wins going back to last season. The Kansas City Current have now won 9 straight. Now it is time to get into the biggest result of the weekend on match day 5, and for that I bring in my friend, producer Theo. Orlando Pride 0, Washington Spirit, Theo, 1. And there's so much to unpack about this, but the headline before this game even kicked off is that Trinity Rodman, an MVP candidate this season, is stepping away from the game to go abroad to address her ongoing back issues. I think it's safe to say that when you looked at the Washington Spirit and hearing that Rodman is gone indefinitely, that takes the wind out of the sails.
It is important to note indefinite, right? She could be back next week. She could be back next season. We just don't know. And she's spoken openly, I think it was a few weeks ago, right? We talked about it on the show, that she said her back will never be 100%. So we knew this was going to be an issue throughout the season. We probably didn't expect her to miss a game so soon, especially after playing for the USA and playing great for the USA. But what I do want to talk about beyond Rodman, right, Jill, is Spirit missing loads of players. It's not like Trinity is, she's a big name. She's a huge player in this league. But that Spirit injury report is crazy right now. Hal Hirschfeld, Croy Bethune, Lacey Santos only fit for 45 minutes. She does come off the bench on Saturday. And in Saturday's, big win, which we're going to get into, how they pulled this win off, Ashley Hatch goes out with concussion. So many issues right now for the Spirit, but they got it done.
I think when the casual fan or anybody looked at this game, they thought, oh, well, there goes at least this game for the Spirit. But they pulled it off, and they pulled it off in Orlando. When you were watching, Theo, how did they do it?
I think they did it with a little bit of luck. That's how football goes sometimes. Orlando played very, very well, especially in the first 30 minutes and maybe the final 25 minutes. The middle section of the game, I think the Spirit were probably the better team. But what the Spirit did very well was defend. They defended their box. They defended the space sort of between the penalty spot and the edge of the box very well. It felt like Orlando had a lot of pressure up high. But when the ball came in the box, credit to the Spirit, who were often able to get a body in the right place. And although Aubrey Kingsbury made 6 saves, I didn't think any of the saves were that incredible. I kind of felt like Orlando mostly missed their chances, created good chances, but didn't really take their chances. And Seb Hines said as much after the game. He was like, 99% of the game I'm happy with, and there was one big error, which we'll get into, but otherwise Orlando attacked quite well for this game, and Spirit just put up a good defensive stand. Let's talk about that error though, Jill. So the big moment in the match, Gift Monday scoring her first ever NWSL goal. Morehouse, the Orlando keeper, with the error, made you feel a bit sick. How did you feel when Gift Monday robbed her of the ball and smashed it into the open net?
Big flowers to Gift Monday, who was just ready for it, took the moment and banged it in like she was just hanging out at practice. And she looked so happy for her, for the Nigerian forward, to get her first NWSL goal. And I'm sure she didn't know in the moment that she was going to be part of, that she'd have the only goal of the game, but that she'd be part of what is a statement game right now for the Washington Spirit. Because when you would have looked at this season, you would have said, okay, the Orlando Pride, the Washington Spirit, the Kansas City Current, that's not news. But if you'd heard about the 11 players, including Trinity Rodman, that's missing, I don't think you would have thought that they go to Orlando and win 1-0. So while it may not go down in her highlight reel of goals, it's a very important goal for sure about the statement that Washington is making, because it starts to make you think like, hey, we just talked about Kansas City, like taking the top of the table in the NWSL. But if the Washington Spirit had all 11 players, now granted, Kingsbury talked about how they were, playing for those missing players, etc. She had some great sound bites, but what could that score have been in Orlando had some of those players been there?
Yeah, and I'm glad you're talking about Kingsbury. Let's quickly tee up here some audio of her talking about another major moment in this match, which was the disallowed goal taken away by a VAR when Kylie Nadana backed into her on a corner kick with the game at 1-0.
I knew it was coming back. Corner kick and swinger, and I had a girl kind of pushing me into the goal, so I couldn't catch and hold it, or I would have fallen into the net. So I had to kind of bat it away while I'm being pushed back, and couldn't really get too much power on it. And I think it maybe hit one of our teammates in it. I'm not sure. I didn't see it after that, but I immediately went to him and said, "They're backing me into the goal. You can't do that."
Seb Hines, though, listener, if you didn't know, did not comment in the post-game press conference, kept his lips very tight.
Well, what'd you think, Theo?
I actually didn't love the call. I kind of think it should have been a goal. I think there maybe is a foul there, but I don't know what. I don't think Kylie Nadano was necessarily trying too hard to get in the way. I think she was in the way, but in kind of an honest, that's kind of like maybe a bit of a sitting on the fence. But I think in football, if you're calling that's a foul, I think we're going to see a lot of goals disallowed for obstructing goalkeepers. So I think it's a slippery slope. Jill, I do want to talk to you about how important this kind of game result is for shaking up the NWSL and shaking up, what has been an incredible 2 years for Orlando Pride. What does it mean to beat the Orlando Pride? When's the last time we saw this happen? I feel like it's been a while.
Well, coming into a game, I think when it's always a rematch of a final, there's a lot to prove. But it was the Spirit's first win over Orlando since 2019, not including the penalty kick shootout in the Challenge Cup. So I think that this group of players went out there with, of course, the beauty of we're going to play for all these people who want to be out there, which is what Kingsbury said, but also the fact of we don't have anything to lose. We're in Orlando. Trinity Rodman is working on her back. We could or could not see her anytime soon. We've got nothing to lose. And then you have people like Monday going out there and being the difference in a game. And I think sometimes, it sounds so cliche, but I think when not a lot's being expected of you, sometimes people are able to go out there and play loose and play free. And I know that you use the word luck, and sure, a 1-0 result, not the most exciting thing in the world. But if I was the Spirit, I know the Kansas City Current are feeling like the winners of the weekend, but if I was the Spirit, I'd be feeling like the winners of the weekend.
No, I like the way you put that. I think when we ask that question, how this is how the Spirit pulled off the biggest win of the season, right? I think we can both call it that. I think you're right. It is a little bit of that X factor, that belief, going 110%, the grit and determination that we saw in that defending, maybe combined with a little bit of luck.
It's like, hey, any other day, maybe the Pride would have won that game. But when you're watching, Theo, what would you have said the main disappointment was for the Pride?
It's got to be the finishing. I think Ali Watt has that chance right after the Spirit score. Barbara Banda hits the crossbar and then the ball bounces to Ali Watt and she just hits it just the wrong side of the post. And I think that was so quick. Kind of, it would have been, not too long, 10 minutes after the Spirit went ahead. I think if that goal changes something, it's a very different thing. So I think it has to be finishing. If you're an Orlando fan, if you're those players, you finish your chances, especially early. Like I was saying, the first 20 minutes, they were all over them. It could have been a very, very different game. Jill, anything else you want to say about, what you think made the Spirit performance so special?
I think to just back up your point on Orlando is shots for Orlando, 20. The Spirit, 6. I'm excited. I'm sure it could absolutely be a one-off, but we would have said the same thing last week about Gotham. Like, hey, it was a one-off, and then Gotham goes out there and wins this weekend 4-0. So I'm excited to see what this Washington Spirit side can do. I'm also eager to see how good this team gets as people begin to trickle back, and we'll see it when the Spirit head to Gotham. Next, over to Europe now for the first legs of the Women's Champions League semifinals. On Saturday, Arsenal were defeated at home by Lyon 2-1. So it is all still to play for in the second leg, which is going to take place in Lyon next weekend. Here is Arsenal's manager, Renee Sleggers.
We knew it was going to be hard because they have so much quality, but then when you work really hard and you want more than this, but now we know it's only half time and they are leading with 1 goal and we have next week ahead of us.
And now I'll send it over to producer Theo, who spoke to the Athletics Barcelona correspondent.
All right, we're now joined by Laia Cervello, fresh from Barcelona 4, Chelsea 1 in the Women's Champions League semi-final. So first off, take us to Barcelona. What was the atmosphere like at this game?
I think there was a record in the stadium, Johan Cruyff, assistance record. More than 6,750 people, something like that, went to the stadium in a really weird time for a Champions League because it was 6 p.m. Barcelona women's team were not used to play in this stadium since 2021 for the Champions League. Everybody was expecting, a big game because there had been a lot of criticism around the team in the last week. People saying that Barca could not make it this year to the finals.
Was part of that nervousness because it was Chelsea? Because we've seen this rivalry. It's almost like a Champions League rivalry, right? Barcelona, Chelsea, we keep seeing it. And even though Barcelona keep beating Chelsea, you think it's because of the opposition? People were a little bit nervous?
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of people has in their memory what happened last season in the first leg against Chelsea in the semi-finals. Right. Chelsea beat them and they were close to make it to the final and just to left Barcelona with the most epic final in Bilbao, which was really amazing to live. So I think people was kind of scared of them. League in the UK has got like really big, that the teams, they are really betting on their women's team, that they are putting a lot of money and that they are investing in their women's team, and people know that at some point that is going to give some consequences to Barcelona, a team that is like the biggest team in Europe nowadays, and that has to play in a league that is not professional at the end of the day. I mean, it is professional because it has like the title, but it's not professional with the teams that they are playing. The clubs don't have like the facilities a professional club has to have to play in the first league, so they don't have any competition over there. So I think for the first time in like a long time, people was thinking maybe Barca is not going to make it. So I think that make people go to the stadium.
And yet they did make it, or at least in the first leg. We will have a second leg next week, but 4-1. Laia, it wasn't even close. How did they do it? How did Barcelona pull this off?
Barcelona has not that feeling of being unbeatable like they had last season, because we have seen some defeats this season against Real Madrid in Montjuic, for example, and that is something that they were not used to. And it may seem crazy, but just two defeats in the whole season, but Barca was so used to win every single game they were playing, so that is felt like some symptoms of the team not being of the team being a little bit more fragile than last season. So I think they just were really focused on the game, because they had a huge respect for Chelsea, a huge respect for Sonia Van Pastor also. So I think that when they are as focused as they are today, they are the team, like the invincible team that we are used to see in the last years. But I think just being really focused on that made a huge difference, and they were superior against Chelsea in like all aspects. I think Chelsea didn't shot at all in the second half, so they wanted to try to have like the tie close in the first leg, because they know that they are going to go to Stamford Bridge. They wanted to have as many chances as they could during the first leg, and that's what they did, to the point that even if Alexia Putellas just missed a penalty, was not significant at the end of the day. So I think they have really the plan they had, they just make it perfect. So it was really difficult for Chelsea to do something.
Something we heard from Lucy Bronze post-match in her sort of view of how Barcelona won this game was the physicality that it kind of put on the Chelsea players, in particular Mayra Ramirez took a few hits that the ref didn't really step in from Mapi Leon and Catacol. What was your opinion of the physicality in this game, and how important was that to Barcelona sort of putting Chelsea in their place?
In the last probably decade, Barcelona has struggled a lot against physical teams, and they have always been said in been told in Barcelona that when a team gets physical, that's what they struggle the most, and they lost against Olympique Lyon the first Champions League final they played in 2019 because of that. So I think they have like that in their collective memory, and that they are aware of the fact that, okay, if a team is physical, we have to be aware because they can just get over us. So I think as they were so afraid of that could happen against Chelsea because they knew that Chelsea was that kind of team, I think they were more physical than usual, and that they got really intense in every ball they were playing because they really needed a victory because, again, they know that they're going to play in Stamford Bridge. So I think probably that happened because of that, because of the fear they have against the teams that get physical against them. So yeah, I think that's why that happened, because it's not normal in Barcelona.
And last question here before I let you get out of here, Laia, is it over? 4-1 in the first leg, is it over? Is there any way Chelsea can come back next weekend?
I think it's really difficult for Chelsea, but you never know because it's Champions League, it's Stamford Bridge, everything. Sonia Pastor said after the game that they are not giving up, obviously, but it's going to be very difficult because Barcelona will probably score a goal at least in Stamford Bridge. So it's going to be tough for them. Pere Romeu was more chilling the atmosphere and saying that the second leg will be really tough, will be a war, as he described it.
A war.
Yeah, it will be a war. So we will see what happens. I think probably Barcelona will be in the final because it's a really huge result for them, and the difference, they have to score 3 goals, and even like that, Chelsea is not passing, they have to score 4. So it's really difficult, but we have seen some crazy games and some things happening, and I think Barcelona will have to be really focused.
Well, on that note, Barcelona won the battle, and maybe they also won the war. Thank you so much, Laia. Great to talk to you.
That is our show for today. We hope that you had a great weekend, whoever you support. Did you know that The Athletic has partnered with Yahoo Sports to provide free, best-in-class coverage of women's sports? That's right. Check out the Women's Sports Hub at sports.yahoo.com/women-sports. My name is Jillian Sakovits. Thanks so much, as always, for listening to Full Time Review.